Body fluid and body fluid regulations. Body fluid compartments. In a complex organism like human, body fluid is compartmentalized into two compartments. One is intracellular fluid compartment and another is extracellular fluid compartments. Intracellular fluid compartments, which is present inside the cells, it accounts for about 40% of the total body weight, while extracellular fluid compartment, which includes plasma and then interstitial fluid plus less than 1% of the transcellular fluid, which includes the fluids present in the lumens of the structures like digestive secretion, sweat, cerebrospinal fluid, pleural fluid, peritoneal fluid, synovial fluid, and others. These are all included in the transcellular fluid, which comes under the extracellular fluid. So it accounts for about 20% of the total body weight. In an average young adult male having body weight for about 70 kg, the total body water is about 60% of body weight, which is 42 liters. Organization of electrolytes into the compartments. As you can see in this diagram, in the extracellular fluid there are more of the sodium ions, chloride ions, and more of the bicarbonate ion, while in the intracellular fluid there are more of the potassium ions, more of the miscellaneous phosphate and then sulfate ions, plus there is also the more of the intracellular proteins, while sodium ions, bicarbonate ion, chloride ions are very less in the intracellular fluid. We can see in this diagram there is also the proteins present in the extracellular fluid, and it is mainly in the plasma. These proteins are known as plasma proteins. Now let's talk about the water balance in the body. So in a healthy individual, there's always balance between water input and water output. So intake and output should be balanced in a healthy state. Intake is in the form of drinking, in the form of food intake, and there is also the specific dynamic actions of the food. This also generates some amount of fluid in the body, while output is mainly through the main is the kidney, lungs, another fecal matters, sweat, and then skin. So kidney poses one of the very important capacity or tremendous, it holds the important or tremendous capacity to regulate the body water. The insensible water loss are water loss from the body to which the person is unaware, like from the lungs and from the non-sweating skin. So this loss is known as insensible loss, which accounts to almost 700 ml per day. Now regulation of body fluids, it involves two separate components. One is control of extracellular fluid volume, that is circulating plasma volume, and another is control of extracellular fluid osmolarity, which is control of solute concentration. This both extracellular volume and extracellular osmolarity depends on relative amount of sodium chloride and water loads in the body. So control measures can be short term and it can be the long term. In short term, there's a reflex known as baroreceptor reflex, which alters the cardiac output and then peripheral resistance through autonomic nervous system, and it is mainly responsible for the maintenance of the blood pressure rather than blood volume. While on the short term, fluid shift occurs temporarily and automatically between plasma and then interstitial fluid. We'll talk on this. Under long-term control method, the kidneys plays a very important role, plus there is also the thirst mechanism, and it is regarded as the hormonal mechanism. So hormone comes to play for the control of body fluids. Short-term regulation. So this is the capillary structures, arterial sides of the capillary and that the venule side of the capillaries. In the arterial side, there is a very important force, filtering force, that is hydrostatic pressure, and on the venule side there is an absorptive force known as a colloid osmotic pressure or oncotic pressure. So in the arterial side of the capillary there is a more of the filtration, and at the venule side of the body there is a more of the absorption. So this capillary fluid shift is the result of change in hydrostatic pressure and colloid osmotic pressure or colloid osmotic forces which acts across the capillary wall. Whenever there is an acute fall in blood volume and blood pressure, the capillary hydrostatic pressure falls in the arterial side, so that there is a less of the filtration, while at the venule side there is a more of the oncotic pressure or colloid osmotic pressure, which favor for the reabsorption of fluid from the interstitial space. So finally there is a restoration of the blood volume at the expense of interstitial fluid. So this is short-term regulation of extracellular fluid volume. Now long-term regulation, it mainly involves the two regulatory mechanisms for the control of extracellular fluid volume and the control of extracellular fluid osmolarity. In the extracellular fluid volume regulation, there is a maintenance of the salt balance, which is of primary importance, and this maintenance is responsible for maintaining the blood pressure. While in the extracellular fluid osmolarity, the main objective is to maintain the water balance, which is of primary importance, and it is mainly required for the control of the cell size and cell volume. We'll talk on this. Now, the control of salt balance is of primary importance in regulating extracellular fluid volume, which is again important for the maintenance of blood pressure in the long run. Daily salt balance, the ingestion of the salt is 10 gram per day, and salt output, there is a 0.5 gram per day, which is from the loss of sweat from the sweat and then fecal matters, and large amount is checked by the kidney in the form of urine, which accounts for 9.5 gram per day. So under the healthy condition, there's a total input is 10 gram per day and output is 10 gram per day. However, salt intake is not well controlled, means it is not well controlled, means some people love to take more of the salt while some people doesn't like it. So it's variable, depend on the individual, different individuals. Now let's suppose there's a decrease in salt load in the body, like excessive sweating or diarrhea. The salt load in the body decreases, and that decreases the arterial blood pressure with the decrease in blood volume. This will decreases the glomerular filtration rate, which will decrease the sodium filter by the nephron glomerular filtrate. So there is a decrease in sodium. On the other side, with the decrease in arterial blood pressure, the adrenal gland releases the hormone known as aldosterone, which goes to the kidney, especially late distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct, and it will enhance the water reabsorption. Now both this leads to the decrease in sodium excretion accompanying chloride excretion, and then there is also decrease in the fluid excretion. Other side, there's a increase in the conservation of the sodium chloride and fluid. So that will finally relieves the decrease in arterial blood pressure and also relieves the decrease in sodium load. So with the decrease in sodium load, there's a increase in sodium conservation, plus along with this there's an increase in the fluid. So this is how the sodium load controls the extracellular fluid volume. Now the next is water balance, which is primary importance for maintaining or regulating the extracellular fluid osmolarity, and which controls the cell size. So normal water input and output. So input is through the fluid, which is approximately 1250 ml per day. Water intake in food, which is 1000 ml per day, plus fluid intake is 1250 ml. Water intake in food is 100,000 ml per day. Metabolically produced is 350 ml per day. So total is 2600 ml per day. While water output, there is an insensible loss of fluid from lungs and non-sweating skin, which is about 900 ml per day. Another is sweating, which is 100 ml per day. Another is fecal matter, which is 100 ml per day, and then massive control is by the kidney in the form of urine, which is approximately 1500 ml per day. So total output is also 2600 ml per day. So it's a balanced state. Now let's talk about this chart, flow chart. So with the increase in osmolarity by any condition like severe dehydration, the hypothalamic osmoreceptors get activated, which stimulates the hypothalamic neurons and stimulates the thirst center in the hypothalamus. So this thirst stimulation will increase the water intake, and this water intake will actually decreases the extracellular fluid osmolarity. Also, whenever there is a decrease in extracellular fluid volume, too much decrease like hemorrhage, there will be a decrease in arterial blood pressure, and left atrial volume receptor is stimulated, which sends the signals to the hypothalamic neurons, and hypothalamic neurons will enhance the release of vasopressin from posterior pituitary, also known as antidiuretic hormones. This antidiuretic hormone goes to the nephron, especially the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct, which enhance the water permeability. So more of the water is reabsorbed, and there's a less urine output. So more of the water reabsorption will actually increases the extracellular fluid volume, also helps to decrease the extracellular fluid osmolarity. So overall, this will actually relieve the increase in osmolarity. Plus, there is the additional effect on the pharmacological dose. The vasopressin also leads to the arteriolar vasoconstriction. This will actually relieve the decrease in blood pressure, and increase in extracellular fluid volume will also relieve the decrease in extracellular fluid volume. This is actually under the negative feedback of homeostasis. So that's why control of water balance is of primary importance for maintaining the extracellular fluid osmolarity. Now, some clinical importance of maintaining the plasma osmolarity. It's mainly responsible for controlling the cell size. Cell size. So here in the diagram, let's say this is a cells and this is the solution. If this cells is kept in the isotonic solution, there is no fluid shift between the outside and inside of the cell, so cell size remains the normal. However, if this cells is in the hypotonic solutions, then there is a more fluid shift from the hypotonic solution to the inside of the cells, and there is a cell swelling, and then that will lead to the hemolysis of the cells. While if the cell is kept under the hypertonic solution, means more osmolar solution, then there is a fluid slip from the inside of the cells to the outside, so that there will be the crenation of the cells. So that's why maintaining the osmolarity actually helps to control the cell size. So some clinically applied aspects are excessive use of IV administration of 5% glucose decreases the plasma osmolarity, and this will lead to the swelling of the body tissues. Hyperosmolarity can cause coma by causing water flow out of the brain cells. Total plasma osmolality increases in patients with severe dehydration, severe diabetes because of increase in blood glucose, and renal disease because of increase in urea. Thank you.